I'm Catherine, and welcome to my hillside garden in northeast Pennsylvania, Zone 6B. This morning I'm going to do some spring cleanup around the yard and bring you along with me. Hopefully we'll see something surprising already coming through the ground. Today I've decided I'm going to work in the deck garden, so I'm going to take this hoop down. Make clean up a little bit easier. Okay. Keep those on there so we don't bump our eyes. I do no-dig gardening, really. I don't have a rototiller. I don't think that's good for your soil. Sometimes I will dig an area to add compost very deeply. And one thing, when you're pulling weeds, you should check for worms, because they like the bottoms of the roots of the weeds. And we want to keep as many worms in the soil to do our digging for us. So that's why. But this year I haven't quite decided yet what I'm going to put here. It does get an awful lot of sun. So tomatoes grow very well here, as do peppers. I haven't put any root crops in here yet. I like to do square foot gardening as well. I guess you could say I'm an eclectic gardener. I don't have one particular style. I believe in reading a lot about gardening and trying new things and pushing the limit to what I can grow. Over time, my husband and I have found that too many things are grown out of the country now. Simple things that should be grown here. I don't know. So, it became important to us to begin to grow more vegetables so that we didn't have to buy as much in the grocery store. And see, this is called mosh. I could actually harvest that for salads. So let me put some of that, because that still looks very nice. I'll leave a corner section here to go to seed, and it just reseeds itself each season. And that way I can come out here in the winter if I wanted and pick some for salad greens, or at least it helps to keep some of the weeds under control so that they don't take over, and this spot makes it a little easier. I'm not going to dig very much here today because the ground is very cold and very wet. And when your soil is wet, you don't want to disturb it too much. It's not good. And see, these were peat pots that I used last year. I ended up tearing them off. I'll start usually my squash or pumpkins in that, or cucumbers, because it's a good way to start those. But I find that they never really degrade, even though they're supposed to. They never really do. So I'll just put those, they'll go into the compost pile. Eventually they'll degrade enough. So, okay, I think you've watched me pull enough out of here, and we'll go on to the next thing after I'm done. I'll show you a clip of what it looks like. I know it may seem rather odd to take video of a worm going across the ground, but when we bought our home 10 years ago, the people who owned it before us for 30 years never did a blessed thing. So we had, when I first started to garden, there were no worms anywhere in the yard. And there was also dirt. There was not soil. I know that sounds crazy, but our dirt was so dead, the only life that lived in it were the weeds that grew. And our yard does have a considerable amount of moss as well. Though I don't mind. I like the texture and of the moss, and my husband doesn't mind having less grass to cut by having it. So be sure to enjoy your earthworms and treat them well, because they'll treat your garden well. At the beginning of the video, I had talked about how different the microclimate can be in this deck area. The soil that I took all the weeds out of today and some of the moss is still very cold, very wet. We did have some rain this week. There's the last bit of the moss that I left in that corner, and that will seed itself here in just a bit. And I do that to have regrowth. It makes it kind of like part of a perennial bed almost, because it reseeds itself. And the blossoms allow the bees to have something to eat earlier in the spring. I want to show you how the soil is. See how wet it is, yet it really sticks together too much, and you really don't want to work in soil like that. And if you come over under the soffit area, it is so dry that you can it just sprinkles apart. So this area is an area where I'll usually plant things that don't need a great or don't like a great deal of water. It has been a learning experience, because last year, I don't know if you could see it, I'll try to get a little closer. I tried bronze fennel and I planted them, and look what seems to be coming up. I have bronze fennel coming up there, and this spot here. So for today, I think we're done in the deck garden area. I've pulled out most of the annual weeds, some of the moss, and tried to clean up some of the leaves. I don't take everything away because they all degrade and go down into the soil. As you can see, I have a wood plank that goes down the middle. I try very hard not to step on the soil. Sometimes it happens, but I try to keep it in that main pathway and plant on both sides of that.